Bismillah wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the other kind of equations, quadratic and cubic equations. Quadratic and cubic equations. And this lesson will be actually pretty easy because we will be focusing in using the calculator in solving these kind of equations. Quadratic equations are polynomials. When we say polynomials, poly means many. Poly means many, and nomial means term. So polynomials, which means many terms that have many terms, and each term has a different variable or a different power of the variable. Like I can say x squared plus 3x plus 1 equals 0. Here x is to the power of 2. Here is x is to the power of 1. Here is x is to the power of 0, which is the same as 1 equals 0. So the general formula of the quadratic equation is this one. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Where a and c are constants. A and c are constants. And b also. A, b, and c are constants. A mustn't equal 0, because if a was a 0, we will get back to a linear equation. Because here, if a is 0, the equation is linear, not quadratic. X is the variable, of course. If you realize here, how many variables do I have? I have only a single variable. Okay. Usually, this kind of equation, we have a general formula that will give us the solution. The formula says x equals minus b, then plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. The value of x is determined by using this kind of formula. There are many ways to solve a quadratic equation, but I always tell my student this is like an electric saw, maybe you can say, or you have a tractor, big tractor, so it solves any kind of quadratic equations. There are other ways which are easier than this, but they don't always solve the equation. Sorry about that. So this general formula determine the value of x. Quadratic equations doesn't have only a single solution always. Sometimes the solution, we have two solutions. Sometimes we have two values of x. Other times we have only a single value of x. And sometimes, as there was one linear equation that doesn't have any solution. Quadratic equations also sometimes doesn't have any kind of solution. So if I substitute b is the value of this constant, a is the value of the constant a, and c is the value of the constant c. What is under the square root, the b squared minus 4ac, is called discriminant. This discriminant tells me how many solutions does this quadratic equation have. If the discriminant is positive, I have two solutions. One is plus what is under the square root, and the other is minus the value of the square root. If the discriminant is 0, I only have one solution, which is minus b over 2a. And if the discriminant is negative, is smaller than 0, then there is no real solution for this. When I said that we don't have a solution, I was talking about real solutions. Then what do we have? We have two complex conjugate solutions. The solutions will be complex numbers. Okay, then let's talk about how do we solve a quadratic equation. First, we solve it by factorizing. And this, we will learn more about factorizing when we talk about functions and function properties. But now we will talk about it very briefly. You don't have to understand exactly everything I will say just now. We have this equation. If I want to write this equation as two brackets multiplied by each other, how do I do that? There is a rule for this. I say First of all, I have x squared. I have two brackets, x and x. Okay. Then one negative, one positive. Then one of these, since this is positive and this is negative, they both have to be negative. Okay, then I say, or without putting the negative and positive, I need two numbers. These two numbers, the multiplication of them should be this constant, and the addition of them should give me this coefficient, the x coefficient. Again, I want two numbers where their multiplication is the constant c and their addition is the x coefficient. Then I will get here, if you think about it, you will get minus 2 and minus 3. Multiply minus 2 times minus 3 will give me 6. And minus 2 plus minus 3 will give me minus 5. This equals 0. Then I say, if I have two numbers, two brackets multiplied by each other, and these two brackets equals 0, this means that either this bracket should be 0 or this whole bracket should be 0. So I say x minus 2 equals 0 and x minus 3 equals 0. Then I'll get x equals 2. This is the first solution. And x equals 3. This is the second solution. So if the value of x is 2, this will be 0. So the equation is true. If the value of x is 3, this will be 0. And the value of the equation is also true. This kind of solving the quadratic equation isn't always this easy, because sometimes you can't find two numbers that when you multiply them will give you this constant, and if you add them they will give you the x coefficient. So if you are doing it by hand, this is a certain way to solve it, but this is way easier if you put enough practice on it. Okay. The other kind of solving here is the same as we said. The other kind of solving, the other method of solving quadratic equation is using the quadratic formula. This is the formula we just were talking about at first. How do we use it? We say, using this formula, x equals. First you have to say a equals. What is a here? Is 2. The x squared coefficient. B equals minus 4. And c equals minus 6. All of the numbers should be in the same side of the equation. Okay, since I got the values of these three constants, I will start using the quadratic formula. X equals minus b. b is minus 4. Minus the negative of the negative 4 will give me 4. Okay, then plus minus square root of b squared, which is 16, minus 4 squared, 16, minus 4 times a times c. 4 times a gives me 8, times c gives me minus 48. Just to be sure, 4 times 2 times minus 6. This should give me minus 48. Very good. Okay. Minus 48. All of this over 2a, 2 times 2, which will give me 4. Okay. Then 4 plus minus 16. This becomes positive plus 16 plus, add to this plus minus 16 should be positive 64. Square root of 64 over 4. Very good. Then x equals the square root of 64. 64 is actually a complete square, and it's the square root of it is 8. So it gives me 4 plus minus 8 over 4. Then this I will have to use, I have to split it. 4 plus 8 over 4 and 4 minus 8 over 4. The first one will give me 4 plus 8, 12 over 4, x equals 3. The other one, 4 minus 8 minus 4 over 4, x equals minus 1. This is using the quadratic formula. This is using the quadratic formula. Okay. The third method is completing the square. As we said, we solved an example about this, but we said we will talk about it more in detail in the future. This method involves writing the quadratic equation to the form of a perfect square terminal, trinomial. So I will say, بعدين مع القلم هذا ضل يهرب منا يا رب. There it is. Okay. We want to complete the square here. We said x squared minus plus 9 plus 5 minus 9. Plus 5 here should be. Plus 5 minus 9. As we said plus 9 minus 9 shouldn't do anything to the value of what we equals 0, of course. These three trinomials are actually, this is a complete squared. X minus 3 whole squared. And these two, 5 minus 8 minus 4 equals 0. Minus 4 equals 0. Right? Right. Then get the 4 to the other side. You will have x minus 3 all squared equals 4. Take the square root. X minus 3 equals plus minus 2. Here you have to split it. X minus 3 equals 2 and x minus 3 equals minus 2. You will get here x equals, the paper ended, x equals 5, and here you will get x equals 1. Because when you move the 3 to the other side, it will become positive. Positive 3 plus 3, 5. And positive 3 minus 2, 1. This is the other method, the third method, which is completing the square. Now let's use the calculator. Let's use the calculator, what we will be using mostly in this course. Okay, how do we solve quadratic equations? First, you have to do the equation setup, the same one we were using while solving the set of equations. First of all, we don't choose the simultaneous equations, we use the polynomial 2. Polynomial degree, this is of the second degree because I have x squared. If I have x cubed, I will put 3, but I have the second degree. Very good. Let's see how should we write our equation. It should be ax squared plus bx plus c. So I have to write this equation. All the terms should be in one part, and the other part should only contain what? Contain 0. So this 4, I have to move it to the other side. I will get 35 x squared minus 22 x 7 minus 4 plus 3 equals 0. This part you have to do it by hand. If it isn't in order, this one is easier. It's complete. It's from the start. We can put it in the calculator. But this one, if you put 7, okay, what about the 4? There isn't any place for the 4 to be put in the calculator. So you have to write it in this form. All of the terms are on one side and the other side only contains a 0. Now we put everything on the calculator. We say x squared, the coefficient of x squared is 35 equals minus 22. You have to realize that this is a minus. Minus 22 equals 3 equals. Then you press equals. You have the first x1, the first value of x is x equals 3 over 7. And the second value of x is 1 over 5. X equals 1 over 5. If you substitute any of these two values in this equation, it will be true. If you substitute it here, this side will equal 4. Or if you substitute it here, all this side will equal 0. Will be equal to 0. Very good. Okay. No, not here. Let's solve the other equation. This one. This we don't have to do anything to it. Just say x squared is 7 equals the coefficient of x is 2 equals the last one, the constant is 0 equals x1 equals minus 2 over 7, x1 equals minus 2 over 7, and x2 equals 0. x2 equals 0. x2 equals 0. If you substitute x with 0, it will become 7 times 0, which is 0, 2 times 0, which is 0, equals 0. Yes, it's correct as it should be. Okay. Now another examples using the calculator. Can I use the calculator from the start here? No, you have to put all the terms on the same side. So move this one here and this one here. 15x squared stays the same. Minus 3x plus 7x. This is a negative. When I moved it to the other side, it became positive. And the 3 is positive. When I move it to the other side, it becomes negative. Now add the like term together. It becomes 15x squared plus 4x minus 3 equals 0. Now using the calculator, I will get, first of all, AC 15 equals 4. The coefficient of x is 4. The constant is minus 3. What will I get? x1 is 1 over 3 and minus 3 over 5. x1 is 1 over 3. x equals 1 over 3. And x equals minus 3 over 5, was it? Yes, minus 3 over 5. Minus 3 over 5. Very good. Again, this one, you have to first put all the terms on the same side. Move this 88 to the other side. It becomes minus 8 minus 5 x squared plus 88 equals 0. Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, minus 5x squared, 88 minus 8, it will give plus 80 equals 0. Now using the calculator. AC, the coefficient of x squared is minus 5 equals the coefficient of x is 0. I don't have any x here. Okay. No, wait a minute. The coefficient of x is 0. The coefficient of x is 0. Yes. And the constant is 80. So we will get to equals, okay, x1 equals 4, x2 equals minus 4, x equals 4, or you can write it in one go, plus minus 4, as f equal x equals plus minus 4. We have two different values of x. Okay, let's continue. Move this x to the other side. It becomes x squared minus 8x. This becomes positive, so I'll have here minus 16, right? Yes, minus 16 equals 0. Where did the minus 16 come from? Minus 22 minus 6. No, it isn't minus 16. Minus 22 minus 6, it will become minus 28. Using the calculator, just to be sure. You have to use the first setup. Minus 22 minus 6 equals minus 28. Get back to the equations setup. Polynomials. Degree, second degree. Okay. Now using the calculator. We will have the coefficient of x squared is 1. The coefficient of x is minus 8. The coefficient, the constant, the last constant, minus 28 equals. Now you realize that this value is different. You can use see the decimal if you use S to D, but you can keep it the same. If it's a multiple choice, if the choices are all in decimals, you have to convert to decimal. So x equals, okay, x equals 4 plus minus 2 radical 11, right? Yes, because they are the same, they are conjugates, just this changes the sign. Okay, this one is in order. I don't have to do anything to it. Just put it on the calculator. Coefficient of x is 1, x squared, sorry. The coefficient of x is 14. The last constant is 96, right? Equals. I have, if you realize here we have an I. This is complex. So the discriminant under the square root, the value of it is negative actually. So here I have the complex conjugate x equals minus 7 plus minus square root of 47, right? Yes. Radical 47i. Radical 47i. I have complex numbers here. The real part is here and the imaginary part is there. Okay, very good. Now try stopping the video and try doing these by yourself. Okay, let's continue. This one, okay, let's do it. Why not? The coefficient of x squared is 5 equals the coefficient of x is 4 equals the constant is minus 15 equals. Here you have two different values. Which are x equals minus 2 plus minus square root of 78, if I remember correctly, over 5. 79, not 78. Okay. The other one. Also this, I can do it from the start. The coefficient of x squared is 10. The coefficient of x is 4. The constant is 10. I will get... also here we have complex number. 1 plus minus 2 radical 5i over what was it? Over radical 6 over 5. Radical 6 over 5 x equals. Okay, this one and this one, I won't be solving these. Here, the only difference, he didn't put x, the variable, he called it b. Doesn't make a difference, doesn't make any difference. Since we have only one variable, we solve it on the same way. This one also, I won't be solving it, just putting in the calculator, it's very easy. This one you have to, this one, you can do it by two ways. The first way, as we said, if I have two different numbers, this one, and this one, and they are multiplied by each other, and the value of the value of this multiplication is 0, then this means the first one should be 0 or the second one should be 0. So I can say either 3n minus 2 equals 0 or 4n plus 1 equals 0. And I have here two different linear equations. Okay, this is very easy actually. Move the 2 to the other side, it will become 3n equals 2. Divide by 3, n equals 2 over 3. This is the first solution. The other one, move the 1 to the other side. 4n equals minus 1 because I moved it to the other side. Divide by 4, n equals minus 1 over 4. And here I have two different solutions. Or if you want to do it the hard way, if I may say, you have to multiply these two brackets with each other. I will say 3n times 4n, it will give me 12n squared. 3n times 1 plus 3n. Then minus 2 times 4n minus 8n. Minus 2 times 1 minus 2 equals 0. Equals 0. Yes, equals 0. Okay. 0 here equals 0. Very good. Now combine the like terms. 12n squared minus 5n minus 2 equals 0. Now using the calculator. Again, the coefficient of x n squared 12. The coefficient of n minus 5. The constant minus 2 equals 2 over 3 and minus 1 over 4 minus quarter. Very good, very good. Now let's move to the last part of this lesson, which is cubic equations. Cubic equations. A cubic equation, from its name, it's an equation of the third degree. Is an equation of the third degree. What do we mean of the third degree? We mean that it has a variable that is up to the third power. Up to the third power. The general form of the cubic equation is this one you see in front of you, where A, B, C, and D are all constants, and A mustn't be 0, because if A is 0, I will get back to quadratic equations. If A and B are zeros, I will get back to a linear equation. Okay, let's see some examples and solve them using the calculator. We won't be learning how to solve these kind of equations using by hand right now. Okay, first of all, you have two options. Polynomials, I have to change the degree. Polynomial degree, I have third degree. As you can see, I have the coefficient of x cubed, the coefficient of x squared, the coefficient of x, and the constant, Okay, so let's start with this one. The coefficient of x cubed is 1. X squared minus 6. X 11. And the constant is minus 6 equals. Here I could get 3 different values for x. x1 equals 1. x2 equals 3. And x3 equals 2. So I have 1x. Why isn't it? We got x equals 1 and x equals 2 and x equals 3. X. Come on. Okay. That's okay. We don't have to write them. Let's just use the calculator to solve these two. Let's solve this one. Let's solve this one in the same way. We can solve it in the same way. We say AC. First of all, the coefficient of x cubed is 1. Then the coefficient of x squared minus 3. And the coefficient of x is 3. The constant is minus 1 equals. I have x equals 1. We see here there is only one value of x. Why is that? We said, if you remember, in the quadratic equation, we could have single solution, we could have 2 different solutions, or we could have no solution at all. In the cubic equations, we could have 3 solutions, or we could have 2, or we could have only 1 solution. As we saw in the second example here, in the second exercise, we only got one solution, x equals 1. So in cubic equations, we could have a single solution or 2 solutions or 3 different solutions. The first one, we got x equals 1 and x equals 2 and x equals 3. Okay, let's do the other examples. Okay, here, the third example. As you can realize, all of these 4 examples are actually in order. We can put them directly in the calculator. But if they weren't, if the all terms weren't in the same side of the equation, you have to move them all on the same side before using the calculator. Okay, let's start this. X cubed, the coefficient of x cubed is 1. The coefficient of x squared is 0. I don't have any x squared. The coefficient of x is minus 4 and the constant is 1. This should give me equals. x1 is this value and x2 is this value, x3 is this value, and I don't know why it isn't giving me any fraction value. So I don't have to write these, but I will get to them. This is the first one. This is the second one. This is the third one. Very good. Okay, the last example and the last exercise we're going to talk about today is this one. The coefficient of x cubed is 1. The coefficient of x squared is 4. The coefficient of x is 5. And the constant is 2. I will get the first value is x equals minus 2, minus 1. I only have two values here. If you realize, I only have two values here. X equals minus 1 and x equals minus 3. You don't always have to have three values. Okay, here we come to the end of our talking about equations. We talked about linear equations, about quadratic equations, about cubic equations. As we said, we didn't get in many details. We didn't learn many skills by hand skills. We will learn about them, factorizing the quadratic equations and binomial expansion. We will learn about that when we talk about functions, inshallah. Okay, that's it for today. Have a great day and practice using the calculator. Salam.